So in modern day, we've come to associate the term matrix with society, right? When you're in the matrix, it means you're in society. But the original etymology of matrix is ma, mother, matter. It is the substance from which things emerge. That originated in Latin and then in Middle English was matris, which they used to describe a pregnant animal, and still has that sense of the source or something like womb that encloses, or something that gives rise to the origin, like the origin of. And this is the great trick of the social matrix, that it's gotten us to believe that it is the source. That, for example, this sort of invented and almost arbitrary system of economics that is entirely wackadoodle and imposed is what is determining the markets, when actually it is the ma, the mother, the matter, the actual resources that are the source of all wealth. And then this is how they can go and say, oh, these countries are rich because these are the ones that are able to manipulate the social matrix in order to extract the resources from these countries who are poor, right? They're poor within the social matrix, and yet they're rich at the level of ma, the true mother matrix. And the only reason this is able to happen is because there has been a millennia-long campaign of brute force to impose this version of society's matrix, this human grid, over the actual system of the earth. And it reminds me, my friend was dog sitting, and there were two dogs, and one of them was an older dog and the other one was a puppy. And the one who was a puppy was doing a lot of resource guarding and didn't want to share and would get really aggro at all these different interactions. And so my friend called up some guy, and the guy was like, oh, you need to establish yourself as an alpha. So when this puppy starts doing resource guarding and getting aggro with the other dog about her dog food, what you need to do is like jump on that dog and hold it down and put its snoot in your hands and go like show it that you're the alpha, which like all that alpha literature has been entirely debunked, which is a whole nother video, because my friend did this and it felt so bad that then they're like, I'm not going to do that, and did a deep dive on actual dog training, not just listening to the loudest guy in the room with an authoritative voice that puts you in a trance. And so you end up following the most authoritative voice, regardless of whether there's any actual authority behind it, which is, again, another example of this pattern. Within the social matrix, if you just have a deep, loud, booming voice and you talk with confidence, people go into a trance and follow you. Versus Ma matrix, what is actually connected to true knowledge, true wisdom, aligned with the materiality of life, right? So my friend researched that stuff and it says no, right? Obviously what you do is you don't brute force that dog into compliance by breaking its spirit, right? You can teach it that it is safe and living in a world of abundance. So when you're giving this dog food, you also always give her dog food. When you're giving this dog attention, you also always give her attention. And I know that doesn't work in any case, and there's a bunch about overgiving and all kinds of stuff, and I'm not a dog trainer, but in this case, it did work. And my friend was able to get this dog's nervous system to calm down sufficiently that even just within a week or two of doing this dog sitting gig, the dog calmed down. And we are the inheritors of this millennia-long campaign of absolute horrific brute force, of raping and pillaging the earth, of severing any connection that we have to that mom matrix, of murdering every single woman who knew about plants, of cutting out the tongues of all of the ancient grandmothers who sang the old songs. And because of the success of this campaign, we have come to believe that our survival is dependent on our cooperation and participation in society's matrix. And they have made it so incredibly difficult to survive, and they have sold us this story that if we want to survive, we need to do it at this level of brute force ourselves, and hustle and grind, and even, produce content every single day, because content on the internet doesn't stop, and show up and 9 to 5. And then of course, as women, they add a million other things on top of that, about everything that we're supposed to be doing to be constantly self-improving and constantly optimizing every teeny tiny area of our life. And all that energy just goes and feeds right back into this social matrix and actually pulls us further and further away from our actual mater. And there's a million examples of this, how the cycles of work pay absolutely no attention to the true materiality of our hormones, of our cycles, of the seasons. And they've tricked us into thinking that those things have nothing to do with it, that actually even being able to do something like run a business has nothing to do with flow or magic or alignment or synchronicity. And then even the places where maybe that message is trying to come forward, it comes out in like The Secret or something, where then all your goals should just be actually about the social matrix. So again, it's trying to sort of like co-opt something that was emerging from the true matrix into the social matrix, which is kind of the social matrix #1 skill. So now back to beauty, because we live in a time when the beauty standards have never been higher. And I am not fooled by the fact that there's more inclusivity and there's people with impetigo or people with slightly different body sizes. No, the beauty standards have never been higher. And with AI coming down the pike, it's just going to get more and more. And in order to achieve this beauty standard, again, takes a huge amount of brute force. You have to nip and tuck and plump and press and push and contour and starve and feed and track and do a million other things, all to achieve this beauty standard. And what's wild, there's this creator on here and she said that the beauty standard, it's not actually beautiful. It's just easily recognizable, that we're being entrained into this trance, into this hypnotism, that this is what is beautiful, this like Instagram face, which is 1,000% case in point, this version of the social matrix. It reminds me of that Greek myth of Procrusteus, who had this bed and he ran a hotel. And when people came to the hotel, if they were too small for the bed, he would stretch them out. And if they were too big, he would use these torture devices to shrink them and make them that size. And that's this imposition of beauty from this social matrix that we're all measuring ourselves up along this grid. Do we fit? Do we fit? And then trying to shift and augment anything that fits, as opposed to true beauty. True beauty for me always has this quality of connecting back with that Ma matrix. From that place, there is this energetic coherence that we see in nature of places of architectural marvel, that the essential quality of something is being expressed through its physical manifestation. The flower is the flower, the tree is the tree. And that therefore getting back in touch with that kind of beauty requires one, self-acceptance, and also self-connection. What do I like? What am I drawn towards? And that it's fully sensory. It's not just what it looks like. That's social matrix shit. That's like when you get a sheen top that's made to look like a broken in 100% cotton vintage tee, right? It's the real thing is the beauty, the full sensory experience of it. And most of all, it's a relationship. It's like how everyone you love is beautiful and that things bloom in the light of your love to become more beautiful. It's relating back with that Ma matrix. Because when I'm in the human matrix, trying to fit those beauty standards, it just makes me dependent on male validation. Versus when I'm connected to the mud, to the dark chocolate, to the roiling waves, to the branching patterns of life, to my own preferences, to my own origin, to my substance, the closer I am to Ma. Let's read this amazing quote by Sophie Strand. She says, "I'm not one for universalizing statements, but I do know that beauty is a surprise. Beauty that leaks from the clouds and erupts from the ground has saved my life." Too often, psychology and medicine discredit the healing power of beauty. Anything can happen, and anything does happen all the time.